Hi guys, today we are creating a really fun pair of earrings using some of the beads from the JJB Beads Tucson Adventure Inspiration Bead Mix. So let's get started. Grab your circular wooden bead and cut yourself a 12-inch piece of 22 gauge wire. You want to thread that through the center of your wooden bead and find the middle of your 12-inch piece of 22 gauge wire. You can also see the holes that are drilled in the wooden bead. You want to place the wire directly over the top of the one that is on the inside of your bead, and you want to bend your wire both directions, just hooking it to the wooden bead. And then you want to go ahead and take both ends, one going one direction and one going the other direction, so that you have created a loop around the wooden bead with your pieces of wire. Now you've got two long tails, one going one direction and one going the other direction. You're going to work with one tail at a time and take the tail of the wire and wrap it around the wooden bead until you get to the very end. As you're wrapping around the wooden bead, you can make the spaces between your wraps as big or as close together as you want. If you want them to be more close together, you can always come in with your chain nose pliers and squeeze them together. And you can come in between the wire wraps and open them up using your chain nose pliers as well to give some space in between them. When you reach the end of your wire, you want to be sure to cut your wire, trim the tail so that it is on the inside of the circle of your wooden bead. Once you have completed one side, now you want to move to the other tail of the wire and wrap it around the wooden bead going in the other direction. Once you have wrapped all the way around your wooden bead, now you are ready to set this to the side and grab yourself a 5-inch piece of 22 gauge wire. Using your round nose pliers, we're going to create a knotted head pin to add to our wooden bead. So we're going to grab the tail end of that wire at the very tip of the wire and at the very tip of the round nose pliers. We're going to roll the wire around the tip of the pliers one complete time, and then a second time directly underneath the first wrap around. And you want to stop right where you see the flush cut of the wire. Before you remove your wire from the tool, take the tail end of the wire and bend it out this direction. Take the wire off of the tool, take the tail end of your wire and stick it back through the two loops that you created. And now you want to come in with your nylon jaw pliers and grab that wire directly next to the two loops that you created. And you want to take another pair of pliers and pull the tail end of the wire, pull it really tightly, and that's going to create a knot at the end of the wire. Now take the piece of wire that has the knot in the end, and you want to place this into the top hole on your wooden bead coming from the inside of the loop, so that your knot is on the inside of the circle and your wire is coming out of the top of the bead. Bring in your chain nose pliers to create a wrapped loop at the top of the bead. Grab the wire right as it is exiting the bead. Bend the wire 90 degrees. Bring in your round nose pliers and grab the wire so that it is running between the barrel of the pliers. And guide that wire up and over the top barrel of the pliers. Adjust your grip with the pliers to move them out of the way so that you can go ahead and bring the wire all the way around to the other side. And at this point, I like to switch hands, and you are going to wire wrap the straight section of wire between the loop and the top of your bead. Once you have created your wrapped loop, now you want to come in with your cutter tool and trim off your tail. Using two pairs of chain nose pliers, open a 6mm jump ring, thread on one of your pink tassels, and close your jump ring back, and sit this to the side. Next, cut another 5-inch piece of 22 gauge wire. Grab the wire about 1.5 inches to 2 inches down from the top end of the wire and bend the wire 90 degrees. Using round nose pliers, grab the wire so that the wire is running between the barrel of the pliers. Take the wire and go up and over the top barrel of the pliers. Adjust your grip, moving the pliers out of the way and guiding the wire all the way around. Switch hands and use the tail end of your wire to wire wrap along the long portion of the wire at least 3 times. And now you're ready to trim off your tail. Thread on your tiger striped bead onto your newly created wrapped loop and bring it to the wraps. Bring in your chain nose pliers to create another wrapped loop on the other side of the bead, grabbing the wire, bending the wire 90 degrees. Come in with your round nose pliers and grab the wire that is running between the barrel of the pliers. Guide the wire up and over, adjust your grip, and guide the wire on around. Before we do the wire wrapping, we want to take the tail end of our wire and we're going to thread it through the wrapped loop on the top of our wooden bead. But first we want to take our tassel and our 6mm jump ring and thread that 6mm jump ring over the top of the wrapped loop, so it's just hanging over. And then we want to take the tail end of the wire on our wooden tiger striped bead and slide that in and pop the 2 loops together. Using a pair of bent chain nose pliers, I grab the loop so that I can keep the pliers out of the way, switching hands and then wire wrapping at the top of the tiger striped bead about 3 times, and then I'm ready to trim off my tail. Use a pair of chain nose pliers to open the loop on your ear wire, thread it onto the top loop of your earring and close it back, and your earring is complete. Repeat these steps to create your match and you have a beautiful pair of earrings. You're going to be creating infinity links, so you need 2 pieces of 20 gauge wire that are 3 inches a piece, and you're also going to need to bring out your small and large bell making pliers. Using your small bell making pliers and one of your 3-inch pieces of 20 gauge wire, you want to grab the tail end of that wire and you want to use the small barrel of the pliers to create a loop at the end of your wire. Now you want to bring in your large bell making pliers. Place the wire into the large bell making pliers so that the loop is right up against the barrel of the pliers, and you want to use the large barrel of the pliers to guide the wire all the way around to create a figure 8 shape with your wire. Using your cutter tool, you want to come in and trim off your tail, but you want to cut as close to where the wires meet as possible so that you have a closed loop on the top and on the bottom. Repeat these steps so that you now have 2 of your figure 8 shapes. Turning our figure 8 shapes in opposite directions so that they are alternating a big and a small loop on either side, we're going to attach these together with a 6mm jump ring. Using 2 pairs of chain nose pliers, open a 6mm jump ring and thread on one of your figure 8s with the large loop onto the jump ring. And then thread on your second infinity link with the small loop going onto the jump ring. Close your jump ring back. Once you have connected the 2 infinity links together with a 6mm jump ring, they should be laying on top of each other in this shape. Using 2 pairs of chain nose pliers, open a second 6mm jump ring and loop through the small loop and the large loop on the other end of your infinity link component. Before you close your jump ring, thread on your gray tassel. Use 2 pairs of pliers to close the jump ring. Now your earring is ready to add to an ear wire. You're going to use a 4mm jump ring to attach to the top 6mm jump ring and your ear wire using 2 pairs of chain nose pliers. Repeat these steps to create your second earring and you have a beautiful pair of infinity link earrings. A really beautiful pair of briolette style earrings using some beads from Jesse James Beads, the Tucson Adventure Inspiration Bead Mix. So let's get started. Cut a 5-inch piece of 22 gauge wire and thread on your briolette bead and bring that bead to the center of your wire. Working with one end of the wire at a time, grab the wire and bend the wire following the path of the top of the bead. Flip the bead over in your hand and use the other side of the wire in the same fashion, bending the wire in the same direction as the top of the bead so that now both wires will crisscross over the top of the bead. Using chain nose pliers, take one of the wires and bend it 90 degrees directly up from the top of the bead. Using bent chain nose pliers, grab the wires as they crisscross over the top of the bead, leaving your straight section of the wire that is coming directly out from the top of the bead and your tail end that is coming off in one direction. You want to take that tail end of the wire and wrap it around the straight section about 3 times. Using your cutter tool, trim off the tail of the wire. Now you should only have one wire coming directly out of the center of the top of your bead, and you want to come in with your chain nose pliers and grab that wire directly above the last wraps that you just made, and you want to bend that wire 90 degrees. Come in with your round nose pliers and grab that wire so that it is running between the barrel of the pliers, and you want to guide that wire up and over the top barrel of the pliers. Adjust your grip, guiding the wire all the way around. And now you want to wire wrap between the loop and the space that you created and meet the wire wraps that you created at the top of your bead. Where your wire wraps have met each other, you should have a seamless section of about 6 wire wraps. Using a second 5-inch piece of 22 gauge wire, you want to bring your chain nose pliers down about 1.5 inches to 2 inches from the end of the wire and bend your wire 90 degrees. Come in with your round nose pliers, grabbing the wire so that it is running between the barrel of the pliers, and guide the wire up and over. Roll the pliers out of the way and guide the wire all the way around. Switch hands and wire wrap the short end of the wire around the long end of the wire about 3 times. Trim off your tail with your cutter tool and you have a wrapped loop at the end of your wire. Thread on a bead cap, one of your ceramic beads, and a second bead cap, and bring those down to the end of the wire. Come in with your chain nose pliers to create a second wrapped loop on the other side of your bead. Grab the wire as it is exiting the bead cap and bend the wire 90 degrees. Come in with your round nose pliers, guide the wire up and over, roll the pliers out of the way, and guide the wire on around to the other side. Before creating the wraps at the top of this bead, remove the wire from the pliers. Take the tail end of the wire and thread it through the loop at the top of our briolette and snap the 2 loops together. Using bent chain nose pliers, grab the loop that you created and hold it out of the way so that you can take the tail end of the wire and wrap about 3 times at the top of your bead. Use chain nose pliers to open your ear wire and attach them to the top of your earring, and your earring is complete. Repeat these steps to create your second earring, and you have a beautiful pair of briolette style wire wrapped earrings. Cut yourself a 10-inch piece of 22 gauge wire and bring in your chain nose pliers. We're going to create a wrapped loop on one end of our wire. You're going to bring that pair of pliers down about 1.5 inches to 2 inches to one end of your wire. Bend your wire 90 degrees. Bring in your round nose pliers, grabbing the wire so that it is running between the barrel of the pliers. Guide the short end of the wire up and over the top barrel of the pliers. Rotate the pliers to get them out of the way so that you can bring the wire on around to the other side. Switch hands and wire wrap your short tail of the wire around the long tail of the wire about 3 or 4 times. Use your cutter tool to trim off your tail, and you have a wrapped loop on one end of your wire. Thread on 3 of your faceted rondelle beads and bring those down to your wrapped loop at the end of the wire. And now come in with your chain nose pliers to create another wrapped loop at the other end of your beads. Grabbing that wire as it is exiting the top bead, bend the wire 90 degrees. Come in with your round nose pliers so that the wire is running between the barrel of the pliers. Guide the wire up and over the top barrel of the pliers. Roll the pliers out of the way so that you can go ahead and guide the wire over to the other side. Switch hands and wire wrap between the loop and the top of the bead about 3 times. Now, guide the tail of the wire across diagonally the first bead, and then wrap all the way around between the first and second bead. Guide the wire all the way around, and this time when you come around, lay it across the surface of the next bead diagonally, and then wrap between the second and third bead. Guide the tail around the surface of the last bead diagonally. Take them off of the pliers and take the tail end of the wire and wrap over the top of the wire wraps that you created at the end of your beads. Using your cutter tool, trim off your tail. Now you want to take your beautifully wire wrapped rondelle beads and sit these to the side. Cut a 4 or 5 inch piece of 22 gauge wire and come in with your round nose pliers. We're going to create a knotted head pin. Grab the wire right at the tip of the pliers and at the very tip of the wire, and roll the wire around the tip of the round nose pliers one time completely, and then a second time directly underneath the first wrap around, and you want to stop where you see the cut end of the wire. Before you remove the wire from the tool, take the tail end of the wire and bend it out this direction. Take the tail end of your wire and guide it back through the 2 loops that you created. Come in with your nylon jaw pliers and grab the wire so that the 2 loops that you created are sitting right against the surface of the nylon jaw pliers, and grab the tail end of your wire and pull. You have created a knot at the end of the wire. This is going to serve as your head pin. Thread on your large rondelle bead and come in with your chain nose pliers to create a wrapped loop at the top of the bead. Grab the wire as it is exiting the bead with your chain nose pliers and bend the wire 90 degrees. Come in with your round nose pliers, grabbing the wire so that it is running between the barrel of the pliers, and guide the wire up and over the top barrel of the pliers. Adjust your grip on your pliers and guide the wire all the way around to the other side, and take this off of the pliers. Take the tail end of your wire and thread it through the wrapped loop on one end of your beaded section and bring it down and snap the 2 loops together. No. Using a pair of bent chain nose pliers, grab onto the loop that you created at the top of your larger rondelle and wire wrap your tail end around the top section of the wire that is exiting the bead. Use your cutter tool to trim off your tail. Use a pair of chain nose pliers to attach your ear wire to the top of your earring. Repeat these steps to create the mate, and you have a matching pair of fancy wrapped rondelle earrings. Cut a 5 inch piece of 18 gauge wire. Place the center of your 18 gauge wire on the largest portion of your artistic wire mandrel and guide the 2 ends of the wire around the mandrel to create your teardrop shape. Once you've created your teardrop shape out of your wire, you want to bring in your steel block and your hammer and work harden the teardrop shape on your block. Make sure to work harden both sides of the component. Thread on your lava bead, your boho bead, and a second lava bead, and bring those down to the center of your teardrop shape. Now you want to bring in your small bail making pliers to create loops on the top ends of both of your wire. Using the smallest mandrel on your small bail making pliers, grab the tail end of one of the wires and create a loop looping towards the outside of the component. Using the small mandrel of the bail making pliers, take the second end of your wire and turn a loop going towards the back of your component. When looking at your component straight on, you should notice that one of your loops is going out this direction while the other loop is going towards the back. And if you lay it flat, you don't even see it. Use chain nose pliers to gently open the loop that you created that is going towards the back of your component. Bend the 2 ends of the wire together and hook your open loop onto the other side of your earring and snap them together. Use chain nose pliers to close your loop and you have a teardrop shaped earring. Use chain nose pliers to attach an ear wire to your earring and your earring is complete. Repeat this process to create the mate to your earring and you have a beautiful pair of teardrop shaped earrings that are ready to wear.